It's John Lund Unleashed. Shout out to Lund loyalists watching on YouTube, those watching on X, Instagram, Facebook, and JohnLundUnleashed.com and the Lund Lunatics, listening to the podcast on Apple and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe and like John Lund Unleashed on YouTube and keep those alerts on so you don't miss anything. Now here's Johnny.
What's happening? Hope you're well. Well, let me take that off the screen there. Hope you're well. Hope you're well on this Tuesday. I know that because it is trash day for me. So that's how I keep my days straight. You know that. I've told you that before many times before. Let me get that off the screen. There you go. That's a lot better. And let me fix that. My God, there's a lot of things to fix this morning. It is episode 206. Lots of stuff to get to. And we will say good morning to everybody in just 1 second. Sorry that we are late. We've been jumping around. So yesterday it's 8 o'clock. Today it is 10 o'clock. And the reason why is I had to do an interview this morning. And I think you're going to enjoy it. I'll release it on Friday. But this person, very busy, but definitely worth it. And I'll release it on Friday is what I will do. And it's going to be worth your time. I'll just put it that way. It'll be worth your time. And we're going to try to get some more guests on the show. But this one was a really good one. And if it wasn't a really good one, we wouldn't have pushed everything back. But I think you're going to enjoy it. So episode 206, first day in pad review. Now, maybe you're like, Lund, I saw this last night. I have a few and some that I did not play last night in the first day in pads review. So we'll do that. Wes, the Tasmanian Devil, I did play that a little bit. Mr. Williams on the defensive side of the ball, Mikael Williams, Jawan out, you know that. Wide receiver worries. Brock was hot yesterday. And then we'll get into the Giants. Mr. WISENHUNT had a rough start, but I'm encouraged by the way that he finished his start. So we'll get into that. Close does not count. They lose 6-5 to the Pirates. That's 10 of 12 now. And Buster's going to have a decision to make because it's July 29th. You know that the deadline is the 31st. We've talked about it a ton, and you know it. You don't need me to tell you it. And now all of a sudden they're one game above 500. And then just in my book, it doesn't, you can be certainly different. And they're in it because nobody's running away with that third wild card. All of them, I think, are going to be eaten up except for that last one between the Padres, the Giants, the Reds, the Cardinals. None of those teams are really running away with anything. If one of them gets on a hot streak over this last little while, then they're going to grab it. But obviously the Giants are going in the wrong direction. And I'm going to show you some numbers that we can complain about the hitting and the runners in scoring position, which Brett wisely broke that 0 for 24 streak. But it's the pitching that really let them down, and that's the backbone of any good Giants team, especially in this ballpark, and they're just not getting it done. So we'll talk about that. Buyers or sellers. Unfortunately, a New York City shooting that this person, they took the wrong elevator, or else they would have been in the NFL offices. And that would have been bad. And did I not load the caboose today? I might not have loaded this caboose pistol, and so I might need, very forgetful, to do that during the show, or you may have to give me a rain check on it. We shall see what will happen. But anyway, the 10 o'clock start today. Let me know what you think of that. Not that I'm going to move it. I just had to do it, like I said, because of a interview that we will drop on the show on Friday. Like I said, I think it is going to be worth it. Joe is here early this morning. I appreciate that. Pin Willie is here. I know I've seen you before, Pin Willie. Kenny, it is great to see you. I know you were frustrated with your Giants, and I think you hit it right on the head there. By the way, if you are like, where is this coming from? This is our chat room at John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. If you'd come there, that'd be great. Bay Area Sports Collective as well, which is a bunch of 𝐃𝐨𝐵Rers in addition to myself. So you can subscribe over there as well. Please hit the like button and get those alerts on because we send out stuff during the day. If you're watching on X, that is awesome. That's at John Lund Radio. You can be watching on LinkedIn or Facebook as well. But I agree with you. Shitty trends, soft hitting, no juice in the swings, too many soft pop-ups, want a good nap, just watch the Giants hit. And it's both. It's all across the board. When you lose 10 of 12, just like when you win 10 of 12, it's everybody together, and it's everybody together when they lose. And I'll kind of show you some of those numbers. Yeah, the mystery interview, I think, is going to be worth your time. I think you're going to enjoy it. Not only is it a great person, but the conversation was really, really good and a lot of fun. And at the end of the interview, and I was going to say, I'm not trying to oversell it, but this last part of the interview especially was really, really good. About the last 5 minutes, I was like, this is gold. And it's stuff that I don't think anybody knows about. So yeah, I think it's going to be great. Jake, Daniel from the 916 this morning. Tommy, it is great to see you. Pine, good morning. Let's see, who else do we have in the Vrock? It is great to see you, man. Vrock from the 48, our good pal, is here today. Good morning to you, my friend. It is great to see everybody. And again, sorry for the late start, but it is going to be worth it. Remember, if you have questions, comments, or thoughts, you can hit us with a super during the show as well. All right, so we'll get into everything today. Let's start with the first day in pads review. And as I did in the wrap-up yesterday, and I got to turn the sound on these or YouTube gets mad, right there with Chris Koceric yelling in his ear. And you can go to John at John Lund Radio, and you can hear the sound on this. I think it was Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit was playing, as Chris Koceric in the backwards cap is yelling at CJ West. And this was before CJ West turned into a Tasmanian devil. So this is the first day in pads yesterday. Beautiful day, about 75 down in Santa Clara. And there's a gigantic second-round pick. Look at that dude, man. That is ridiculous. That is Mr. Collins, Alfred Collins. He is a big boy, but the problem is, and watch, he stays low here, but he's 6'5" and about 330 pounds, and it's hard to keep that body low. Not with Mr. West. He's about 6'1" and about 320 pounds, maybe even a little bit more than that. And he's already low to the ground. And so he's got leverage and he is really tough. And I'm not just saying from a girth standpoint or from a strength standpoint, he's just got that want to. And so what he does is he gets off the line. He's quick off the line, but he just doesn't stop. His legs don't stop. His arms don't stop. He's just, it's like this spinning ball of knives. I mean, that's just the best way I can put it. and you don't know where to grab or to and he just doesn't give you a break. And a lot of times you see these guys and you're looking at the number they're going against and you're like, that's either a third string guy. That's a guy that's going to be not in the NFL, not overly impressive. But the thing that changed it for me was on about his third rep, CJ West. He went up against Dominic Pooney, the second-year guard. Obviously, you know Dominic Pooney. He's really good. And the first couple of reps that Dominic Pooney had, he was like a brick wall. It was like, are you kidding me? And it was against some backup defensive linemen. But then it was like, oh, look at this. Let's see what this does. And CJ West just went right through him. So, that's a little different. Trent versus Bosa. Trent held his ground. It really just depends on, you don't get overly excited until you see, oh, this is a 1 versus a 1 here. They just, they're in line and they just kind of rotate. You never know who's going to go against who. It's not really planned. Maybe it was planned. Maybe they went, CJ, hey, get up here against Pooney, because he was just crushing everybody. It's like, okay, let's see what you do against one of our top guys. So look, things happen in camp. You have good days, you have bad days. I'm just saying the best player in camp yesterday was CJ West. And the unfortunate part for all of us is, well, for you guys especially, is that it was a bummer because they make us turn off the cameras before the 11 on 11s, but a lot of the drills and stuff we can tape. And right as they were lining up, they said, no more cameras. And I'm like, oh, because that's the best part. So you just have to take our word for it. But I think everybody's in consensus. Everybody's kind of looking at each other like, my gosh, this guy's really good. So he had a great day. He can have a bad day today, but for one day, he was really, really good. So that was the number one thing that stood out. Also, Mykel Williams, rushing inside, rushing outside. He is going to be a problem. So here is Robert Saleh giving a lot of credit first to CJ West, although he didn't see those reps up close. Here's Saleh talking about CJ West and what he's seen so far from him.
Fire hydrant, right? I mean, he's he's like a little fire hydrant, right? I mean, he's powerful. He's got heavy hands. He's going to be fine. He's like a lot of rookies. There's so many things that they're learning, that especially on the interior of the D-line. It's a game within a game, and the first thing they learn is pocket push, and then they learn how to capture an edge and rush from there. So I wasn't there. I heard he did a really nice job over there, but I'm excited to get to the tape to see it.
Like I said, I have a bit of an obsession with the defensive line, so I was standing over there and wasn't going to miss the one-on-ones there. I don't know what Robert was doing, but I'm sure he's seen the tape by now and is like, wow. He talked about quickness, strength, size, and he talked about heavy hands. But the other thing is his effort. And he just, from my standpoint, CJ West just wasn't going to stop. And it's kind of like a running back. His legs don't stop. His arms don't stop. His effort don't stop. His motor doesn't stop. And that's just a want to kind of a thing. So you can watch all the film and you can watch all the tape. But one of the reasons why in the NFL teams miss on players is you just can't measure want to and heart and all the different kind of things that don't show up in a combine. And like I said, this is only a handful of reps that I saw, but you can certainly tell that this kid wants it. And the Niners, remember, they just look at the history of John and Kyle. They tend to hit in those mid rounds, right? Well, this kid's a mid rounder. And if you look at the history of the 49ers under John and Kyle, these are the kind of guys that they hit on. He's already low to the ground. He stays low anyway, and it's just really difficult to leverage those kind of players, especially if they're going to be a rolling ball of knives and you just don't know where to grab or hit. And he's already low. He's not exposing a chest like Alfred Collins can sometimes at 6'5". And I'm not saying that Collins is a bad player. It's just sometimes he stood straight up and then is just trying to grab and power guys back, and it's really difficult to do in the NFL. He had a couple of really good reps as well. I'm not saying he didn't. As far as the rookie Mikel Williams, he had a couple of really nice reps, and he was the only guy that I saw in those drills one-on-one against the offensive line in pads that went both inside and outside, and he looks good at both. The issue on the outside is he just kind of seems to have a limited amount of moves. We'll see. Don't get me wrong. He's athletic. He's big. His arms are long. He's a problem, but he just needs a little bit more refinement, and it's kind of like what I said before I even saw him in these kind of drills, which is he had the least amount of snaps in college football among edge rushers that were in the draft this year. And it's just going to take him a little bit of time. It doesn't mean he can't be good. And I think he has heavy hands. He has unusual size in a good way, long, big, strong, quick. It's just going to take him a little while to be able to use those tools. But Robert Saleh talked a lot about some rookies and what he saw out of them yesterday in the first day of pads.
Mikel is he's going to be a hell of a football player. And Nick Martin's doing a really nice job. Upton's doing a nice job. There's some young guys. CJ West is doing a really nice job. They're all the way across the board. Siegel, he's getting his legs underneath them. Alfred Collins, they didn't get any OTA reps, so they're coming along. But it's a promising group. It's exciting to work with those guys. They're sponges. Every day is something new, and so they're doing a very nice job.
Yeah, it's like I said, I stayed with the defensive line a little bit. I have only seen the linebackers in 11-on-11s. D. Winters had a deflection for an interception. He's just always around the ball, and he was last year too. He just didn't know how to make the play. He didn't break down and make the play. Everybody says he's more mature this year, so we'll see. And that can really only be done, I think, in the games. I saw him around the ball a lot in camp last year. I think he's going to make the plays this year that he didn't make last year. He's had a couple interceptions, had what would have been a pick six, I think, on the first or second day of camp. So he looks really, really good. I don't think there's any question who's going to be next to Fred Warner. Hopefully Nick Martin can emerge and be the third linebacker on the field because I really like his speed, and that's where those big defensive linemen come into play because Nick Martin's not very big. He's probably that 220 pounds. He's built, don't get me wrong. I mean, he's strong. It's just that he just doesn't carry a lot of weight, and that's where those big guys up front keep those big guards off him. And I think that he's got a lot of speed. The Winters gets to the ball quickly. We know what Fred does. They can diagnose and get to the ball. Just got to make the play once you get there. So that's one of the things. But you're seeing that from the linebackers. And then the other thing is, and the reason I was maybe a minute late, even though it was a 10 o'clock start, is I saw this online yesterday, and it was one of the things that everybody was talking about. So I've told you about Upton Stout, the 5'8", 185-pounder. He's from a smaller college. And again, hitting on a mid-round guy. And he's just been great in shorts, running around in shorts. And I've told you about him every single day. Kyle mentioned him without any kind of prompting on the first day. Robert Saleh mentioned him. He was asked, but he mentioned him. And he's been around the ball a ton. He's made plays. And then I was really curious to see him in 11-on-11s yesterday in pads because he's just not a big guy. But he comes up, he mixes it up. He reminds me of K'Waun Williams quite a bit. I've told you that. And then yesterday, and I just happened to be watching Ricky Pearsall on these plays. I was watching releases yesterday from Jordan Watkins, which I'll get into, but I was watching Ricky Pearsall on this play, and I forgot that Stout was on him, and I thought the play was going to be complete. And Upton Stout, great makeup speed, and comes over the top of Pearsall on an out route and just knocks the ball away. And then, of course, they're all jumping up and down on it. And I saw, because we have to turn off our cameras, I saw that the Niners had posted it. Then this morning I couldn't find it, but it was a great play coming over the top. No PI, came over the top, body control, knocks the ball away from Ricky Pearsall. It was a hell of a play. And this kid just makes those plays every single day. Now, look, it's early in camp. Could someone emerge? Yeah. But I don't see anybody even close to what he's doing in the slot. And every day it's like, what about Upton Stout? What about Upton Stout? Every coach mentioned him. I mean, whether it's Saleh, whether it's Kyle, they mention him every single day. So he's off to a tremendous start. I wouldn't be surprised. And we talked about this already. Renardo Green is going to be back in plenty of time. Should be fine at one corner. Demo is going to be fine in the other corner. He made a great play. Well, there probably wouldn't have been a fight in some camps. He made a play in which he went high on Isaac Guerrero yesterday, and Guerrero just went wham. And we all kind of, we're kind of stuck against the sideline. We all kind of went, is there going to be a fight there? And there wasn't. But, it was pretty hard. But he comes up. So he's aggressive. Renardo's aggressive. Upton Stout's aggressive. They're young guys, but it's an aggressive secondary. But I like Stout. And so they've got some guys, and they need them all to emerge. But if you're looking at that defense and you want to be encouraged by something, I thought West, Williams, Winters, and Stout had really good days yesterday. And I think that's something to be encouraged about as far as the defense yesterday. Now, on the other side of the ball, JENNINGS, and we kind of expected this, he's got a calf. And I don't want to alarm you, but sometimes a calf turns into an Achilles, and we hope that that's not the case. But he left practice early 2 days ago, Sunday, and then he wasn't there yesterday, and Kyle was pretty short Sunday talking about JENNINGS, so JENNINGS wasn't there. That's not good. Wide receiver worries-wise, though, and this is why I was kind of focusing on receivers on 11 on 11. So we forget, and I'm not saying these are great players, but Demarcus Robinson, he's going to be back after 2 days, so you got that veteran. I forget about Isaiah Hodgins, and I'm not saying he's a great player, but he has experience. He played for a few years with the Giants. He's caught some balls in this league. So he's there. And then one of the guys who probably among a number of great catches yesterday, and I wouldn't say the offense dominated yesterday, but I will say that a lot of guys had a lot of great catches. Probably Russell Gage, who you remember him, Russell Gage Jr. from Tampa, who had a couple of decent years. He was in Atlanta too. So he's caught some passes in this league too. Again, another out route. He goes up and gets it. The official called him out of bounds, but we all were standing right there and it looked like he had his butt in bounds. So I'll say that he had his butt in bounds and it was a catch. So he made a great catch. Christian McCaffrey had a great catch yesterday. Who else had a great catch? Juszczyk, he was out of bounds, but him and Fred kind of battled for one. That was pretty cool. Jordan James had a nice catch that oohed and awed the crowd yesterday. Ricky Pearsall had a nice slant route that he ran afterwards. George Kittle had one that oohed and awed the crowd on just a short out, but then, man, he's a lot faster than you think. He took it down the sidelines for a touchdown. They're in pads. He probably would have been tackled, but who knows? But a lot of great just one-on-one efforts yesterday. And then Jordan Watkins had one in which Purdy was going right, went back left. But the thing about Watkins, and I put wide receivers worry, so I'm talking about, okay, there's a couple of veterans that you might have forgotten about on this roster that may make it just because maybe JENNINGS down. By the way, 𝐜𝐭, same thing. He's going to be in that Raiders week, so hopefully 𝐜𝐭 will be back in time, and hopefully he can continue his positive trend. But one guy in the first couple of days in camp that we really didn't see much from was Jordan Watkins, the rookie out of Ole Miss, who was so good in OTAs, ran a 4.37 again, another mid-rounder. And I'm kind of looking at this whole thing, and I'm like, where's that guy? And the last couple of days I've watched him, and then they get in pads yesterday, and I specifically was watching him on releases. And what he was doing was, he wasn't hand fighting. He's so quick that he kind of does one of these, and he's off the corner. And he was going against Trey Brown, the former Seahawk, and he made a move on him like kind of an out, in, right off, and Brown couldn't get his hands on him. And he runs this short crosser, and I mean, he's wide open by 6-7 yards. Brown couldn't make up the speed. And he didn't get thrown to, but he did that a couple of times on a couple of different corners where his release is boom, boom. And, there's going to be teams that are obviously going to watch him on tape and say, okay, you got to get right on him because he's so fast, especially on that kind of quick crosser. And if you think about it, I was thinking about when I watched him do that. Kansas City did that a couple of times against the 49ers in the Super Bowl in Vegas, and they did it with Rashee Rice. And Rice doesn't have overall really good speed, but he's a quick guy. And they did that on a couple of like 3rd and 3 type of situations where they just did quick crossers and even kind of rub routes against the 49ers. And Watkins could be really effective on those because, one, he's hard to get your hands on. And then, two, when he's crossing like that, you're not going to be able to get him. You're just not going to be able to keep speed with him. And he's going to catch one. And, hey, maybe it's only going to be, boom, boom. And it might be 5 yards as he, crosses and gets out of bounds if you need a short one. But he's going to be really difficult to cover in those situations. So, look, I'm not saying it's great that Juwan's out. I'm not saying it's great that Cowing's out. But there are a couple of veterans on this team, and there are a couple of young guys that have made some plays. I didn't mention Nair. He's kind of disappeared after that one big catch that he made on 11 on 11s. But a few guys are definitely going to have to step up because there wasn't a whole lot of talk about Juwan, and we'll find something out today as well. But that thing was going on in OTAs as well, and it's kind of scary that he has to be out. So we'll see if he's in practice today, but not great. So, and Brock was good yesterday. Daddy Brock, who has a brand new baby girl, Millie Jolene. And if you don't think that there's an influence in them living in Nashville now, I mean, that's a Nashville name. Millie Jolene Purdy. Millie Jolene Purdy. And I sang yesterday. That wasn't too popular. So I won't sing the song Jolene by Dolly Parton. But I did yesterday, and it wasn't too well received. So there you go. There's an update on the 49ers. Oh, let me throw one more thing at you from yesterday. This is a Juice, and I thought this was interesting because he was asked a question about all the youth on the field, and is it different because, there's not as many veterans around, and he brought up a good point. Here's Juice from yesterday in the presser.
I still think there's a pretty big core, at least, on the offensive side. There's still myself, Christian, George, Trent, Juwan, Brock, Colton. I'm missing, I'm sure, plenty of guys, but that's right there. That's a lot of guys that have been together for a long time. But yeah, I mean, there definitely are some younger guys in the building and guys that we're going to count on and guys that are going to need to contribute. But I think those core guys have also done a good job of taking on that leadership role and answering any of those questions that young guys have asked.
All right, two things there. One, the double chain look is nice, and he can pull it off. And then second of all, I mean, he's right, and I've kind of said this the whole time, is the youth is on the defense, and the offense is going to score points. Now, does the offensive line have to be better? Yeah. Is there a concern potentially at left guard? Yeah, because I don't know who's going to be there. And Nick Zackel, who's a really big dude, by the way, is getting first crack at it right now because Ben Bartch hasn't practiced. I'm still not enamored at the center position, right guard, despite the fact that Pooney got pushed back a little bit by CJ West. That's fine. I know that a lot of people don't like Colt McKivitz, but if you look at him like I did yesterday in one-on-one drills, he's impossible to move. He's gigantic. He is gigantic. So, in certain ways, I understand that you get frustrated, but you can't pay tons of money to everybody. And he's solid. I mean, he doesn't give up a lot. Now, speed rushers give him trouble, stuff like that. But I mean, a couple of guys tried to bull rush Colt McKivitz, and it was kind of like, dude, I got the country strength. I'm not going anywhere. So anyway, there's that. So that would be the issue. But look, Christian McCaffrey's looked amazing in camp. He's bursting through holes. He's making great catches. People who are saying that he's not healthy just don't know. And he's looking great. The receivers are an issue, but when everything gets together and Ayuk comes back and Robinson is past his DUI stuff and hopefully Juwan gets healthy, and there's a lot of what if this and what if that. Ricky Pearsall's looked very good in camp. I think they're going to be okay. Yeah, I'm not a Brendel guy, Jason. I agree with you 100%. But the weapons are there. And even guys like, Garendo, and I think Jordan James is going to surprise some people, especially in preseason, because the dude is like maybe 5'8", and all of a sudden he's bursting through the hole behind these big offensive linemen, and he's got juice. And you're like, where did that guy come from? You're going to see it in preseason. He made a nice catch yesterday in 11 on 11s where he kind of comes from nowhere. And that's hard for the defense because it's like, where is he? Where is he? Where is he? And then he's got to burst. I don't know what his long speed is, but he's got to burst through the hole where he kind of he's right on you. And because he's small, again, low center of gravity, he's got strong legs. And running backs out of Oregon know how to get to the hole and know how to run. That's kind of their thing. They're the same thing. It's a zone read, cut and run. And so he's coming out of the right kind of system for the 49ers. So look, I'm not saying he's going to be McCaffrey. I'm not saying he's going to supplant anybody, but I'm saying that, again, the Niners have a kind of a way of mid-round running backs, not third-round running backs, but later-round running backs, and I think he's going to be a good one. So we'll see there. So there you go. Any more questions on the Niners or what they're doing or what they did yesterday? I know that let's see, Clint Kubiak spoke today. I haven't had a chance to look at that, but I will. And I love that Kyle Shanahan kind of has a right-hand man like he did with Mike McDaniel. And that's been missing. That's just been missing over the last couple of years. And I think it's a huge thing that he is there as long as Kyle trusts him. So I think that's a big thing. And I'm going to go back and watch him. And I'll have that out later today. All right, let's get to the Giants if we must. Another loss. And by the way, let me just look through that nobody has any questions. Oh, Chris already left. All right, Chris, see you later, bro. Christian is here. Joe G is here. James is here. John Joseph, good to see you, my friend. Dom, what's going on, man? All right, no more questions on the Niners. If you do, by the way, hello, Jedi. If anybody's got any questions, comments, thoughts, just hit them right below here. And like I said, make sure that you are subscribed to the page. If you're watching on one of the other platforms, just make sure you're subscribed to the page, John Lund Unleashed, on YouTube. Thank you very much for that. We'll get into the Giants. By the way, good place to catch me too is X at John Lund Radio. All right, let's get into the Giants a bit. Carson Wisenhunt, too much of the plate. We've heard so much of his changeup, and especially early, the first couple of innings, that changeup was over the plate too much for major league hitters, and he got himself in some trouble. In fact, let me just pop up the box score here, and we can show you early in the game. If you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. Had a home run in the first inning, maybe shook him up a little bit. I can see where the potential is for this guy, though. But you can see first couple innings, 4 runs, but then the offense kind of stayed with it, 4-3 at the end of 2. But he settled down after that. So 5 innings pitched. I was pretty surprised by this, and you got to give him credit for it. 5 innings pitched. He gives up the 4 earned in the first couple innings. A couple of bases on balls didn't help him out. Struck out 3, gave up that home run. But he did end up throwing 85 pitches and get through 5. Now, that's not great, but given the way that it started, could have been a lot worse. And then we're going to get into some numbers from the starters in the bullpen. Carson Seymour, who has not been impressive since he's come up, he gives up a couple of more, and then Camilo Duvall comes into the game, and there's been some trade rumors around him. I don't see that happening. Mitch Keller, who's on the trade block himself, was just okay. A lot of teams have talked about him possibly on the trade block. They use a ton of pitchers. And then Bednar, another guy that has been on the trade block a little bit, barely gets it done at the end. They leave Jung-Hoo Lee on base, who got him a little bit closer, but they lose 6-5, and close doesn't count. What do they say? Only in horseshoes? So close doesn't count, and the Giants go down. So 6-5, they lose last night. By the way, they're all run together. Devers made that nice play last night, right? So maybe he is coming along as far as the defensive end. But, so look, if you didn't see the game and you just looked at his numbers, you'd say to yourself, well, Wisenhunt wasn't very good. But I do give him credit for staying in there, hanging in there, maybe a little bit nervousness. But again, you could tell early in the game, he was just getting too much of the plate. And I don't care if you throw whatever you throw. You could throw 110 miles an hour. Getting too much of the plate, you're going to get hit. I don't care if it is a Bugs Bunny changeup, which everybody said it was kind of a Bugs Bunny changeup, and it was one of the best in the minors. If you're going to put it in a certain place, they're just going to hit it like it's on a tee. So he's going to learn those kind of things. And I agree with you, Tommy. Went 5 and threw 85 pitches. And given the way that the start was, I'd be like the way the first couple innings was, is like, get the pen up. So it wasn't great. But he did hang in there. And I think his next time around, and he should get a next time around, I think he's going to have he's going to have the butterflies out. I think he's going to be a lot better. I think he's going to look at this thing and say, all right, so yeah, the start wasn't great, but he was a lot better at the end. But at the end of the day, it's a loss. And so there's a big picture that we have to look at here. But here's a couple of things that I want to tell you about. Alex Pavlovich, you might have seen these things. So this is a cool story. His dad was in the Philippines on a work trip. His son gets the call up. He took a 13-hour flight to Oracle Park And by the way, his dad was a football player, wore 88, and that's why Carson WISENHUNT wears it. So anyway, dad took a 13-hour flight to see that thing. That's pretty damn cool. And then from the hitting standpoint, my God, Brett Wisely's RBI double snapped the lineup's 0 for 24 skid with runners in scoring position. Okay, so you're asking yourself, well, which is it? Is it hitting? Is it pitching? What the hell's going on here? Well, when you lose 10 of 12, just like when you win 10 of 12, it's kind of a team effort, right? It's everything. So let's look at some Giants notes, shall we? Because it really is a team effort when you win or you lose in this kind of a situation. So let's see here. Where are my Giants notes? Hang on one second. I know they're here. Is that it? Or is that not it? Hang on. That's got to be it, right? Hang on. Let me cancel that and make sure that that's it. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Sorry, this is taking so long. Let me go back. So I wasn't sure. I've got about 50 windows open, so that's not helping things. Okay. Yep, that's it right there. Okay, so let's look at the starters, because this team is always going to be built on pitching and hopefully when they win, timely hitting. So starting pitching, March, April, not great. But then May, that's pretty good. Not terrible in June. But then a 4.98 ERA, 6-10 with a 4.98. Win-loss record, whatever. But you're near a 5 ERA for your starters in July. Not good, right? Bullpen, best in baseball, right? 252 in March. Or March, April. May, you're at 243. And then it starts to go kind of haywire. 397 bullpen in June and a 426 in July. So your bullpen, which was the best in baseball, hits a 426 in July. And your starting pitching, which was coming around, 277 in May, and you still had a 9-11 record. So you could blame the offense in May. 9-11, despite the fact that you had a 277 ERA out of your starters in May and a 243 out of your bullpen in May. So you're like, well, hitting's not getting it done. In June, you're okay, but not great. You can still blame the hitting to a certain extent. And then you get into July and you're like, nobody's doing anything. Hitting's not great outside of maybe Willie Adames. And your bullpen goes south, and so does your starting pitching. So it's everything. We can sit and blame the hitting. 0 for 24 with runners in scoring position. And finally, when Brett Wisely breaks it, that's not great. But it's the bullpen and the starters. The bullpen has a 5 ERA this month, and the bullpen goes from a 243 2 months ago to a 426. So it's up 2 runs. Boy, am I a math guy. So nobody's getting it done. You can blame everybody. You can blame the pitching. You can blame, and look, there's the starters. All of a sudden, Birdsong goes south a little bit. The last 3 starts for Logan Webb have been, that's actually scientific, terrible for Logan Webb over his last 3 starts. Robbie Ray hasn't been near. He's an all-star. Give it to him for the first half. But Robbie Ray over his last few starts hasn't been very good. So even the guys in your rotation who are your benchmarks, the guys that everybody relies on, your first 2 guys, and that's what we've been talking about, right? First 2 guys are anchors. The third guy has just been kind of not really good, but oh my God, all of a sudden you get a guy like Landon Roop, he gets hurt. And now you're scrambling. You're bringing up a WISENHUNT. I don't blame him for his start. It's a rough start, but then he kind of calmed down. Okay, we'll keep him in the rotation. Justin Verlander finally gets his first start. So your starting rotation's a bit of a mess right now. And you lose Eric Miller, who hopefully he comes soon. But, Eric Miller, now you're kind of overusing some guys. There's some names in the bullpen that you're not normally using, right? Guy like Carson Seymour last night, that's going to raise up the bullpen or the ERA of the bullpen. So it's a combination of everything. You lose 10 of 12. Yeah, your hitting can go south. And we saw, look, in May, they go 9-11 in May, and both the bullpen and the starters are great. Now, the hitting is kind of mediocre. It's a little bit better than it was. But now the pitching in both senses, both starters and relievers are struggling. And that's what's going on. So this is where it leaves us. And this is where it leaves Buster in a pretty tough spot. We are the morning of the 29th. And this is what the standings look like. Let's see if I can do a better job and more quickly getting to the standings. All right, here we are. So this is what Buster sees today. This is what we all see, but this is what Buster sees. And we say this every day. Brewers or Cubs are going to win the Central. The other is going to be the wild card. Dodgers are going to win the West. Mets or Phillies are going to win the East. The other is going to be the wild card. So it comes down to Padres, Reds, Cardinals, Giants. And even, let's just go to losses because you can't give losses back. You can get more wins. So I just look at the loss column. All right. So you're 4 behind the Padres in the loss. You're 2 behind the Reds. You're tied with the Cardinals, who I don't think are very good. You're only 2 ahead of the Marlins. Yes, you heard me right. You're only 2 in the loss ahead of the Marlins. Now, you've got 4 more wins than them, but still, they could win 4 in a row. So you are 2 ahead of the Marlins in the loss, as weird as that sounds. You're 3 ahead of Arizona, and they are clearly Arizona selling. Arizona will be probably the biggest sellers in the next 2 days. They've already sold Josh Naylor. They got lucky when Suarez, who got hit with a pitch in the hand, they say that he's going to be fine. But it's not looking great. I don't think that Buster is going to sell, but 54 and 53, if they lose tonight and you're sitting at 500, if they were to lose the next night, and I don't want to be a pessimist here, you're 54 and 55, and that's trade deadline day. And if you're Buster Posey, you're going, okay. I mean, let's just look at this logically for 1 second. So you don't need to look at that anymore. All right. Could they be, Padres, Reds, Cardinals, Giants. Could they win that wild card race? Absolutely, they could. Those teams are not world beaters. Talent-wise, the Padres are the best team. Talent-wise, and I know that it's easy to say when they're, 4 games better than the Giants right now, but just from a pure talent standpoint, all right, the Padres are the most talented of that group, and they are the wild card, but it doesn't mean you couldn't catch them. They don't always play up to their talent. But let's just logically look at the trade deadline right now. It does mean something that they went out and they did what they did in getting Rafael Devers. It does. They could absolutely get Logan Webb back on track. They could get Robbie Ray back on track. Roop could come back, and that's a really solid 3 in the rotation. If they went out, we've talked about Zach Littell. You wouldn't have to give up very much for him. He's an innings eater. He's got an ERA in the now high 3s, but he could be all right, and he's a former Giant. He knows how to pitch in this ballpark. You'd have to give up virtually nothing to get him. So there's a solid 4 who could eat up innings, and then 5, whatever. Everybody's got a problem with their 5 starter. That would probably be Verlander, and hopefully he pitches better. Okay, there's your 5. That's okay. You get into the bullpen. I think if Eric Miller comes back, I think you get healthy in that bullpen. They've shown what they can do. I think they're better than clearly what they showed this month. And Tom, I'm going to get to Tommy, what you just said right there. That's a good point. But I'm going to go to something that Patrick is saying right there. Don't trade any prospects. Who do they have to trade that they would actually trade? You're not going to trade Bryce Eldridge. He's not getting traded. Bryce Eldridge is not getting traded. And if they had the best record in the National League and they needed something to get them, to ensure something in the playoffs, they might. But if you're hovering around 500 and you look at all the talented teams in the National League, okay, not just trying to get in just because it's a wild card. Look at the talented teams in the National League. As good as the Mets are, who just swept you. As good as the Phillies are, as good as the Dodgers are, as good as the Cubs are, as good as the Brewers are. I can't believe the Brewers have the best record in the National League, but they do. Those teams are far superior to the Giants. So Buster's got to be realistic with it. I think he will be. He's not trading any of his top prospects. He's not trading Bryce Eldridge. And if they had, I'll keep saying this, they had that one prospect who was ready, who could help them over the top, whether he be a pitcher, a hitter, or whatever, that player would have been up here. They just don't have it. They don't have organizational depth. They couldn't fix first base with organizational depth. They couldn't fix second with it. Maybe Casey Schmidt. They didn't have it when Matt Chapman went down. They don't have it when Jung-Hoo Lee struggles or when Mike Yastrzemski does. They don't have it. They've struggled when they've needed to bring up pitchers, and they haven't been able to do it when they've had to bring up relievers. It hasn't worked. They don't have organizational depth. So who are they going to trade? First of all, you don't have any depth to trade. The only player that they can trade who might give them, and I do mean might, give them something, but not enough probably to get over the top, would be Marco Luciano. Luciano's having a great year at AAA. He was once a big-time prospect. He does not have a position to play, but he's a bat. And there might be a team to say, look, he was once a big-time prospect, and maybe he could be again. He's showing power. What the hell? We could use a DH. Why not? But you're not going to get a top prospect for him, so he is it. Now, maybe there's some guys, I don't study their system every single night. I don't. But maybe there's a lower prospect guy that's got some sort of potential. But he's not going to take any of the top prospects. Gonzalez, the young 17-year-old shortstop, I know of him, and a few other guys. They're not going to take any top prospects and move them because they don't have a lot of depth in their system, and they're just not going to do that kind of a thing. Luciano is probably it, and maybe a flyer on some, a young player that they've got that somebody might be intrigued by, like a young arm, like they did to the Red Sox. There was an arm in there that none of us had ever heard of, and the Red Sox said, hey, why not? That's the kind of trade they'll make, and they'll probably get some player, that's middling. I don't like Tampa Bay. I don't think that, I'm not trading Luciano for Zach Littell, a couple of months of Zach Littell. That's too much. I wouldn't even trade Luciano for him. I think it would be a lesser prospect, but somebody who could be an impact player, would Luciano get you that player? I doubt it. I just doubt it. So if you are that barren with the players that you have in your minor league system, and we've seen that there aren't a whole lot, or else they would have helped this team already, then you really don't have prospects to trade in the first place, and you're not trading your top guys like Bryce Eldridge. I don't know if they would trade WISENHUNT. I have no idea. He was, like I said, he battled through it last night. I can see why he's a top prospect. I saw flashes last night, but I don't think they'd even trade him unless it was somebody big time. So I don't know that they can swing for the fences. I don't know that they could do that, because as lopsided, I think, as the Devers trade will eventually be, Kyle Harrison was not too long ago a pretty top prospect. Jordan Hicks, even though last night he was the losing pitcher in a walk-off game for Boston, can still throw 102 miles per hour and could have some upside at 27, 28 years old. I could see that. Former first-round pick that they traded. I mean, I could see that package. I could see where the Red Sox would say, okay, this guy's a big pain in the ass. Here's some upside in a package. I could see that. They don't have that kind of package to give again. So I don't see it. And you're one game over 500. So I don't see a lot out of their farm system that they could give up. So having said that, I would look at it and say, well, then should I be a seller? Because I don't have a good system. So don't I want to fortify my system? And let's be realistic. I'm not here to be, fantasy guy. I'm not here to be fan guy. I'm talking about Buster Posey. I'm not here to be a fan. I'm here to do what's best for the organization, both right now and in the future. Well, probably the best thing, honestly, to do for now and in the future of this franchise is to get more prospects. Because if they had prospects, they would have brought them up, right? So I need more, because I'm not getting, there aren't players ready to contribute now. That's a big red flag. That's like a siren going off right now. There's not players that this organization can use right now. And if I'm Buster Posey, there's guys on this team that I'm saying, can you get out from a bad contract? Is there somebody like that? I mean, I don't know that I'd trade Willy Adames right now, although if you want to get out from this contract, he's hitting about $350 this month. I don't know. Maybe you'd want to. I wouldn't want to. I think he's going to be a good player here. I think he's finally getting his feet under him. I think he's not intimidated by this park anymore. I think he's kind of gotten used to it. I'd want to keep him. I'm keeping Devers. He's not going anywhere. Like that, I'm not doing that. Chapman's not going anywhere. Anyway, give me your thoughts on it. Ray's an interesting one. Tommy, I think he's got one more year left right on the deal, but you might want to do that. You could probably get a pretty nice return on Tommy on Robbie Ray. He'd probably be the number one guy, right? I mean, the Marlins have a couple of guys. The Arizona has a couple of guys. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, Robbie'd be up there. I mean, I would certainly. That's a good call right there. You got to listen on those guys, right? Let me see here. You got to listen on all those guys. You got to listen on them. Absolutely. If somebody's calling you and you're one game over 500 and you've lost 10 of 12, you got to listen, because they got a bad system. I mean, look, like I said, I'm not studying their system every day, but I know what I've seen come out of the system this year, and they haven't been able to solve a whole lot of problems with the guys that they've brought up. That tells you what the system is all about right now. And you can either act like a fan and say, we're still in this thing. Well, what? To barely get into the playoffs potentially and then lose right away? This fan base is over that, I think. And, it's always dangerous to speak for the fan base, but I'd kind of be over that. Like, yeah, you can barely eke in, and I get it. 10, 12, and 14, you were never the favorite. I understand that. Weird things happen in the playoffs, and I'm sure Buster will talk about that because he was a part of it. I get it. But the NL is loaded. So, number one, I don't think you're going to get the wild card. Number two, if you get in, if you eke in, I think you're out quick. And then you bought at the deadline and your farm system is still, he's got to have a long-term look at this and say, look, we've got to upgrade the system. And I love Robbie Ray, but what do we always say? Pitching will sign here. I do. I like Robbie Ray, and he could get a lot in return. And then you go to the offseason and you sign some guys. You sign a couple of pitchers. You can do that. Your farm system isn't exactly flush with them, but you can sign a couple of guys in the offseason to replace Robbie Ray. I don't think there's any doubt about it. Hitters, different story. That's why you're not trading Adames. You're not trading Devers. You're not doing anything like that. So anyway, there you go. Oh, sorry, Tommy. My bad. Tommy has a super. And remember, supers, you can hit us up anytime if you want your stuff. Yeah, Seymour is awful. Seymour is awful. That's what I mean, is that's the best they've got in the system. So if that's the best you have in the system that tells you about your farm system, don't you kind of have to be sellers? You're one game over 500 and you bring this guy up and you're like, I think you need to trade some guys. Yeah, Melvin's catching a lot of flack. Maybe Buster did this to try to, because it's in the midst of losing, and maybe Buster gave him or picked up the option to try to pick up the clubhouse some weird way. That's the only way. I've thought about this a lot for some weird reason. I don't know why you would pick up the option now. Or what did he do a couple of weeks ago? He picked up the option a couple of weeks ago. What have you proven? Like when you were in the playoffs, and they were in that wild card spot for a long time earlier this season, that might have been a time to do it. But they were in the midst of losing, and it was almost like, hey, boost the confidence to the team. I don't know if players care about that kind of stuff. Maybe they do. But I would have probably waited to the end of the year to see what happens. And look, I've said this many, many times. I love Bob Melvin. He's been good to me, good to my kids, good to us. When I was on KMBR, he would come on with Papa and I, even when he was going through a lot of weird issues down there in San Diego with the Padres. If they came in town, he always came on, was always very honest, tell us the truth. He's a good guy. I've met him a couple of times at Cal games. Very nice. But you got to be honest when you're in this business, and he's underperformed. He always got the most out of his A's teams, and it was always admirable what he did and how he dealt with all that stuff since he's come here. I think he's done the least with the most. When he was with the A's, he did the most with the least. And I'm not saying that this is a World Series roster or anything like that, but the hitting has not improved outside of a guy like Willy Adames. The pitching is regressing. I mean, they're going like this. They're going the wrong way. And a lot of times that's the manager. We've talked about Pat Burrell to our blue in the face, so we don't have to do that anymore. But yeah, it hasn't not been a good year. It has not been a good year when you're regressing. Now, again, there's been a couple of injuries. I get it. Some bad luck with Roop, and Chapman was out a while, but everybody goes through that in every sport, every professional sport. And after a while, that's an excuse, not an explanation. Now, if it's outrageous, if you have outrageous injuries, then that's an explanation, but it hasn't been. They haven't had outrageous injuries. In fact, they've probably had the least, in terms of, you look at the league, I don't think that they haven't had an outrageous amount. So you can't make that excuse for this team. Yeah, I'm with you. I think as I sit here today, and I don't know if anything can change in 2 days against the Pirates. I mean, hey, they win 2 in a row against the Pirates. I don't know. I mean, is that going to change your opinion? I really think they need to. I mean, I'm just looking at the farm system. I just think they need to. I think it needs a boost. I think the fact that they just haven't gotten much, if anything, out of the farm system this year when they've needed help, I think that tells you a lot. I just think that tells you a lot. I wouldn't be against that. I wouldn't be against that. I mean, the pitchers would certainly be, and it's been a conversation for a long time, man. But damn, I'll tell you. Oh, look at that. All right. PMP. Our good friend Dom. That is Polymax Particles with our good friend Creative Tony. They're at 11, right, Dom? All right, I'll give way because I don't want to get in the way of that. They're going in 4 minutes. Again, we're not going to make the 10 o'clock start a regular thing. I just had to do that. Like I said, I had an interview this morning that I will drop on Friday, and it is good. I'm not going to lie to you, man. It was a great conversation. I was going to give you a hint on it, but I think it would give it away. I'll think about it. I'll give you a hint on it tomorrow, but I just it would give it away. I think you might be able to figure out on the hint I was just thinking about. Thank you, Tommy, for the super today. Much appreciated. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. We can skip the New York City shooter. That's a downer anyway. Miss anything else today? All right. If you want to look up the NYC shooter, you can do it. It's a downer, man. I'll just say this. I mean, he killed 4 people, which is awful. But he took the wrong elevator. He was going for the NFL offices, man. brutal. Just terrible, man. All right. Everybody have a wonderful day. Wonderful, wonderful day. I could pop back on for a camp update. I'm going to go do some research on that today. And again, make sure you're back here tomorrow, but Friday, got a special guest for you. So make sure you are definitely here for that. Make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. Hit us with a like, please, before you get out of here. That helps the algorithm. So please hit us with the like if you would be so kind to do that. And keep those alerts on because you never know when we're going to pop on or put more stuff out. So do that if you would, please. And head over to Polymax Particles on the Bay Area Sports Collective. Have a wonderful, wonderful Tuesday.
Thanks for hanging out with John Lund Unleashed. We'll try to be better next time, though I wouldn't hold my breath. Please like and subscribe on the John Lund Unleashed Pod YouTube channel. Watch live shows weekdays at 8 a.m. on YouTube, Instagram, and X. And make sure to have your alerts on for shows throughout the day or night. All things Lund can be found at johnlundunleashed.com. johnlundunleashed.com.
Goodbye!